This is from the Constitutions, Chapter 2, the vocation of our life and the formation of the brothers, Article 6, formation for work and ministry. Let all the brothers remember that while serving the Lord in minority, they must desire above all else to have the Spirit of the Lord in His holy activity. Therefore, while acquiring manual skills and a sound education, let them seek to become holy, and at the same time competent in their particular grace of working. Studies, given light and life by the love of Christ, must be entirely in keeping with our way of life. While engaged in studies, therefore, let the brothers develop their hearts and minds in such a way that in keeping with the intention of St. Francis, they grow in their vocation. In fact, formation for any type of work is an integral part of our religious life. In 2006, I had the opportunity to study in a small rural town in Austria called Gaming. The incredible natural beauty of Austria, along with the intimacy of the small community of students who were encountering Europe for the first time, lent itself to a deep sense of wonder that remains imprinted on many of the students that were able to share in this experience. And I don't know if you guys remember the musician who played for our second Capuchin Cafe, but he was a friend who actually studied at the same in Gaming the same time that I did. And he wrote a song actually reflecting on his experience there. And the chorus goes, you were the first one, you were the last one, you were the only one I wanted to find. I waited for you, I waited everywhere, you were the only one I wanted to find. So he was reflecting on his experience of just this this overpowering desire to find God in all of the experiences that he had while he was in Europe. And so as he goes through the chorus, he starts to walk through many of these experiences. Walking the grounds where the martyrs fell in the Circus Maximus, and on his knees, climbing up the steps that Jesus did in Rome, the holy stairs, and just from the top of a mountain, overlooking the valley and basically the 14th century monastery that we were staying in. But it was interesting that there was no point in the verse where he reflected on the 3 papers that he had due in the last 2 weeks of school, or on the time that he had to step in for one of his brothers to do the dishes because a couple guys didn't show up, right? So maybe these were like the rough draft of the song, but they're not quite as flashy as the beauty of a mountain. So I understand that they didn't make it. But, we're called to desire or to discover the presence of God in every aspect of our lives, not just those mountaintop experiences. And this is in something as ordinary as our daily work. So I'm reflecting on this portion of the Constitution specifically because it emphasizes our work here, most of us as students, trying to discover God in our work. So, and it seems true that almost in anything that we do, whether this is classes, ministries, or our house responsibilities, that there's an enthusiasm that comes at the beginning. There's just at the beginning of any new endeavor. So at the beginning of the new semester, I'm very excited to begin and undertake the studies that I'm about to take. And I think that's largely because the notion of why I'm doing it so I can know more about God, that I can share, that I can serve God's people better. But as the time continues on, more and more, we just kind of get worn down by the day in, day out experience of this. And so it becomes very difficult to recognize the presence of God in that day-to-day life. So the question becomes, how, in the way that we are currently serving the Lord, do we desire above all else to have the Spirit of the Lord in His holy activity? How do we recognize the grace that resides in working? This requires continually receiving a new vision, a new way of seeing, to perceive the mystery of God's presence in all that we do. And so this evening, as we have the readings at Mass, we're we're going to hear two readings concerning what we might refer to as hidden truths. And I'd like to draw on 2 points, one from each reading. So in the Gospel, we've been reading the Bread of Life discourse in the Gospel of John over the past few days. Jesus reveals himself as the living bread that came down from heaven. He says, "Whoever eats this bread will live forever, and the bread that I will give is my flesh for the life of the world." This is a difficult mystery, right? In a few days, on Saturday, we'll read how many of Jesus' disciples ended up leading him specifically over this point. It seems that at times the grace that resides in working is also a mystery that remains hidden to us. And I think it's especially true when our work gets reduced to tasks on a list to complete. Or whenever routine makes our work tedious and seemingly insignificant. And it's here that we need to trust Christ, that there's a deeper meaning in all that we do than we can perceive. And just pray for the grace to be able to recognize the grace that exists in it. But then in the first reading, we're going to read about Philip engaging the Ethiopian eunuch on the road from Jerusalem. Philip asks the man if he understands what he's reading in the book of Isaiah. And the eunuch replies, "How can I unless someone instructs me?" Philip then proclaims the person of Jesus, beginning from this scriptural passage. And in this way, the hidden truth of scriptures and of the person of Jesus Christ is revealed to the eunuch through another. So brothers, we're called to accompany each other in this journey of religious life and to help one another see the graces that are present in each of our lives, especially when we struggle to see it in our own. So I had an experience a little bit earlier this week that reminded me of this. As you can probably guess by the context of this reflection, it's something I'm struggling with in my own life at this time. You know, as school and as ministry converge in the last couple of weeks of the semester, it's been very difficult. You know, I think I've really reduced what I'm doing just the task on my list. I have a list on my desk that I've just been checking, one event off at a time. So a couple days ago, someone shared with me some of the fruits that they had seen people receive through Capuchin Cafe. And for me, this was a great encouragement because it kind of broke my line of thinking for a little bit. You know, it took me from thinking just of Capuchin Cafe as the next thing on my list of things to do, and it kind of reminded me of why we're doing it at all. And so, to bring others to Christ. So this is what I'd like to leave you with, is that one of the greatest ways that we can help one another recognize the grace of working and the presence of Christ in our daily lives is by encouraging each other, by sharing the ways that we see God present in each other's lives.